Can you not get stuff delivered though?
What?
Like if you order, can you not get stuff delivered if you order it online, like from the website or something?
It'll take like hours. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
I do like that we just kind of like went straight into this conversation. So people have no idea what we're talking about, but whatever. So with the Champions League, if you don't mind, I want to start out with a hot take.
Go
I
for it. No, shoot.
Everybody's thinking this, and from what I've seen in the media, no one wants to say this, so I'm saying it.
Fun.
Did Marco Reus cost Dortmund the Champions League final?
In what way? Go on.
Here's my curious why. So Marco Reus gets subbed on at 72 minutes.
Yep.
Literally, they scored 2 minutes later. But not just they scored 2 minutes later, but if you remember so there were two corners, right? There was the first corner, and the way that
Yeah.
they got that corner was for some reason Marco Reus was doubling Vinny with Hummels. It wasn't
Hmm.
it wasn't it wasn't Emery San, it wasn't their right back. I can't remember his name. It was Marco Reus, and he got that trick pulled on him, and then Max Hummels kicked the ball away because of that. They could have gotten the ball back, but he just saw Marco Reus get embarrassed. He was like, "Let's get this ball out of here." And then you had the first
Yeah.
quarter, and then once you're in corners, you're kind of in crazy town. You know what I mean? Like that's why people love having corners, is because like anything can happen. And
Yeah.
so my question is like, look, do I am I saying this as a criticism of Royce? No. Like I think he played a good game. Obviously, he's gonna get subbed out when he gets subbed on. I think he was a little bit overexcited. Like he shouldn't be covering Vinny at all. But I think they should have put on Daniel Malin instead of Marco Royce, or
Mhm.
maybe even Holler instead of him, and then maybe put on Marco Royce at like 85 minutes. You know what I mean? Because
Is that is
they
that
they
time though?
put him on because he's a club legend. That's why they put him on. They didn't put him on for
I
games.
mean, he has an incredible scoring record against Madrid. He's got a lot of goals against Real Madrid throughout his career. Obviously, injuries and age have an impact, but I think 85 minutes wouldn't have been enough time. It would have been criminal. If they brought him on 85, they would have been the other way. The fans would have been like, shit, the manager's taking a piss. Why even bring him on just for 5 minutes in his potentially last game? I think the first goal, I believe, and I'm not just saying this because obviously I'm happy Sancho lost the final, but I think Sancho gave it away carelessly for the first one. If you go back and watch the highlights, resulting into that Hummels tackle and then Royce Hummels situation that you're describing.
Yeah,
Not to pile on Jadon Sancho, one person doesn't lose you a final in this case, but there was definitely some careless play. I think the legs were starting to go. Dortmund were really pushing. I mean, they could have been 3-0 up at the first half. Like that chance for Adiemi is insane. He went the other way. Like momentum, everything is shifting him towards the keeper's left, and he kind of cuts in on the other side, and then the angle, that heavy touch, the angle kind of fucks up. Carvajal did well to track back anyway, and obviously he ended up scoring on the other end in the second half. But Dortmund
so
came out of the trap line.
I,
I was very
I
impressed.
don't blame Adiami for that, because I think that Courtois got a hand on it, and
Mhm.
it like bounced in a weird direction, because typically you'll kick it left,
Yeah,
uh, right outside the keeper, and then you kick it in with your left foot and it goes in. But that took a weird bounce off of that, and I think at that point, I mean, could you say Adiabi waited a little bit too long? Sure. I mean, I think that's fair. Like maybe he should have done the
great run,
on the
great
dribble
pass.
before.
Yeah, great run, great pass. It's just the way when he made that run coming in. So if the centre back say he's coming in this way, the ball's played. It's just the way momentum's going. You think he would have just rolled it with his right left across the keeper and then just slotted it right. But in hindsight, he might have, if he'd done it that way in mystery, would have said he should have gone the other way. So hindsight's 2020. But
Yeah,
Dortmund came flying out of the cups. I think at least with the second goal, I was talking to someone about it. The second goal was definitely a case of the substitution. So Emre Can got subbed off. Ian Matson, great season, great final. He played exceptionally well this whole season. Like he's a really solid player. Crazy pass to play, but again, because there were no options. This is that going back to the episode last week when there's the influence of Pep Guardiola and this total football control.
yeah,
If there is no clear pass, it's not a pretty thing to do. Fuck it, Rose Z, man, just boot it down the line. It's not
yeah,
pretty. The fans will complain. It's not easy on the eyes. But when you try and be too clever, because they're taking off Emre Can, so I believe Sabitzer was the only holding midfielder. So they were kind of, and Real Madrid at this point started pushing more and more towards the Dortmund back line. They
and by the
bought
way, if you don't mind interrupting, Sabitzer is not a I wouldn't call him a pure holding midfielder either.
No, no, he's
I
box to
don't think
box. Box
he's
to
box
box,
to
yeah.
box. Yeah,
Yeah. He can do the shift, but he's no Emre Can, let's say. But even just having the bodies there, so you had Sabitzer and Emre Can, so you had two pivots there
yeah,
almost. What's happened now is you brought on Haller and Malin, Daniel Malin, to obviously change the game 1-0. They've probably all game long and all season long, Matson's had that option, square it and then figure it out. Sabitzer being outnumbered, it was a bit of a loose pass, dangerous pass. Worst person in the world it could go to was obviously Bellingham. He then, first time, just hits a nice, beautiful short pass to Vinicius. I remember seeing the goal thinking, oh my God, what a finish. It's still a great finish, but Vinny almost kind of hit it into the ground and that almost beat the keeper. The keeper got half a touch on it. It
yeah.
looks a bit like a scuff finish or not the cleanest of strikes, but those are the ones that tend to go. And sometimes when you hit it too well, keeper gets a good hand or it goes, hits the
Oh,
post, it can go wide.
100%.
Almost scuffing it and hitting to the ground, it almost made it like a more finessed finish almost, like just rolled, like curled into the side netting after the keeper almost got a hand. So I would say they were unlucky. Reus, personally, I wanted Reus to win it. He's such a legend. And, he got robbed of the Germany World Cup that year in 2014 because of the disastrous injuries he's had, the poor guy. I remember
Yeah,
watching him burst the scene when he was like, I believe it was like 2011, 2012. He was unplayable. It's like watching someone play FIFA. Like he's just banging them in from 30 yards. He's got this crazy shot, crazy control, and then just shitty injuries in 2013. He missed out on the World Cup. Dortmund Champions League final that year as well in 2013 didn't go their way. So you're kind of hoping he gets a bit of a happy ending. On the flip side, Nacho Fernandez, what a story for him, what a story for Tony Cruz. So it's
yeah.
bittersweet. But
I will say like so I kind of have three things. The first, like my criticism of Royce, of something in Royce, is not his caliber as a player, is merely his age. You know what I mean? We're like, if you have a player that old, like you kind of remember him as what he was, not what he is right now. Um,
yeah,
the second thing is I completely agree with you with subbing off Sabitzer for Haller, because like when you as you're kind of saying, like they switch from a 4-2-3-1 to basically playing like a 4-3-3, and I think that works very well if you're the better team. It doesn't work as well if you're the worst team, which I mean, obviously they were the worst team, because what happens is at that point all of your players like don't are out of rhythm, as you were just saying, of who to play the ball to, of who to depend on. These are now basically in a completely different system. And one thing I think about a lot, almost to the point of autism, is like the degree to which different formations differ from one another. And a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3 with a false nine, they seem like the same formation, but they are so completely different in terms of their actual execution. So as you said, like taking off
yeah,
Sabitzer for Haller, like really changes your entire game plan. Because instead of having two defensive midfielders and having two triangles, you now have one guy in the middle who's acting like a sweeper. And in that situation, your right back and left back have to play up, especially in creating offense. The last thing I'll say is I completely agree with you in terms of the ugliness. I think that and this is one thing that's like really frustrating when you play the game of FIFA, but is actually like very realistic, is that like soccer is an ugly sport. It like goals are ugly. Like a lot of the goals just don't make sense. And like it's not these pretty drawn up plans. It's the ball gets there, the guy's in the right place at the right time, and he kicks it. So I completely agree with you in terms of Bellingham. I'm just like a lot of times just toss the ball in, see what happens. Because even if the
yeah.
first player gets a bad shot, and the goalkeeper can hit it, not completely save the ball, and then someone else could touch it, right?
Ball,
I,
yeah.
I I do think though that like around the 45th minute, it kind of seemed like Dortmund had lost the game because the Adiyami one I think was a lot more excusable. There was a second one, I forgot who shot it. Was it Sabitzer who shot that one that just barely missed the goal? At that point, I was like, these guys are cursed. Like this isn't happening.
The first half, right?
What?
Was this in the first half? Sabitzer
Yeah,
shot? I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, I mean, they had a lot of chances. Fulkrug had some great chances as well. He scored the one goal that was offside, rightfully so. Um, you have to take it's the oldest, it's the toughest part of the game. You have to take your chances. Now, to create that many chances, and realistically, I think even Peter Schmeichel said it on CBS. They could have been 3 up at halftime. Dortmund. Courtois
yeah.
made a couple saves. He looked solid, nothing fancy, just did the job. No, I thought he looked a little bit shaky initially. Obviously, a bit of rust, not playing, only playing 4 games before this, but
Yeah,
steadfast as always. But going back to your point about Royce's age, again, devil's advocate. If you go back to the Real Madrid's previous game, Hosselu relegated with Stoke City and nothing, a complete Premier League flop.
yeah,
30, north, definitely north of 30. I don't think he's super old, but I believe he's 31 or plus.
yeah,
And like you said, like you literally just said, take a shot, second ball, who's in there? Hosselu snaps in 1-1.
exactly.
Minute later, coach is finished, Rudiger's cross. So if Royce had come on and done something like that, he's not the same kind of player as Hosselu where he's going to be definitely in the box. But let's say he banged in a 25-yard, 20-yard screamer. That would have been, even if they lost 2-1, that still would have been a storyline in itself. Like, oh shit, Royce, he still has it.
Yeah, I hate to. In America we call it Monday morning quarterback. But if I was if I was playing this in FIFA, what I would have done in the 72nd minute instead of subbing on Royce, which I think was a really bad idea. I think that what they should have done is subbed out Sabitzer, get like a really defensive minded right back and left back. I don't have their lineup in front of me, but I'm pretty sure they have somebody that can get into that spot. And then and then put Folkring in the attacking midfield position, and then put Daniel Malin in the striker position, and basically just say we're gonna clamp down, be a fort, and then whenever we get the ball back, we're just kicking it as hard as we can. And Daniel Malin, you can get as many chances as you can, and maybe you can score on Courtois. Who knows?
I was very surprised at how early it was. Still second half, obviously 70 plus minutes. I was thought Eddie went off a bit early. I thought with the legs he has, and like I said, if we had him and Marlon attacking that Madrid back line with that pace and pinging the balls
Yeah.
through, I think we've been. And again, it's going to sound like I'm shitting on Sancho, but I think Eddie was way more effective than Sancho, and the fact that Sancho stayed on a lot longer was just a little bit strange.
Oh, I completely agree. I
Like it was,
completely agree.
he had a few little, he was good with the dribbling and had a few. I remember he switched the play a few times, crossfield passes in the attacking third in the first half, but second half Sancho was a passenger, and that's kind of been the story. He might be bright in the first half, a few dribbles here and there, but I don't remember him beating anyone 1-1. I don't remember him. I don't remember the Sancho of like 2021, 2020, for example. So
I mean, to be fair though, he was up against Carvajal, right? Or was Carvajal on the other side?
Carvalho's right back.
He
So
was against Mendy.
yeah, he was against Mendy, who had an unbelievable. No one's talking about Mendy was absolutely solid. He was going in for some crunching tackles. He let them know he's there. He's had a few injury problems. Hasn't played a lot. They've been linked with Alfonso for a long time, but as far as he's young as well, as far as auditions go, I think Ferland Mendy now, if he can stay touchwood, if he can stay match fit, I think he's got a long glittering career with this Madrid team. All these players, they're so young. Carvalho, we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I was like, Carvalho, one of the most underrated players in
Yeah.
history for me. And then
100%.
look at him, pops up with the goal.
Yeah.
And they even asked Ancelotti at full time. They're like, "Oh, isn't it strange? Like this, one of the shortest guys on the pitch, right back. He scores with the head. He's like, watch him in matches in general. Watch him in training. He's a threat. He's an aerial threat. Like this isn't a fluke. Like
Yeah.
no one was surprised when he popped up. Great header, great leap. So
And
yeah, no, it was brilliant.
also Carvajal, I think has more Champions League final wins than every other
6.
club except for Bayern and Real Madrid. Or
And
as many as many as any other club except for Bayern and Madrid, which is insane.
yeah, he's insane. He's nuts. Like he's just 6 Champions Leagues. I mean, there's so many in that squad. Toni Kroos got 5 with Madrid, 1 with Bayern. Luka Modric, Vinicius now scored in back-to-back finals. That
Yeah.
kind of went under the radar as well because it was the second goal, but like the Liverpool game a couple of years ago, Vinny scores in big games. Like they're not the prettiest goals, like we said, like they're tidy finishes or however it goes. But
Just traumatized me.
yeah, they were the highlights before the game kicked off a lot the other day. So
Yeah.
Vinny, 2 goals, two finals, 2 goals, potentially match-winning goals. Like he's up there now. Mbappe is just signed, which I'm sure we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah. I was actually just about to ask about that. But
Yeah,
by the way, so I just checked. It's only Milan that has more Champions League finals than so like. I mean, I'm still haunted by that goal. It still upsets me. Like, I'm just gonna take 30 seconds just to talk about it. But like, I've always said, like the things that piss me off about Klopp is how stubborn he is, and the fact that he kept on TAA as a right back in that game was so stubborn of him. It's like don't we're gonna get smoked by Vinicius Jr. We all knew it going into the game, and it's like put Tsimikas there. Tsimikas is not like a creative right back. but he can put in a good defensive shift. Anyway, I'm going to digress. But so my question with Mbappe is this: is so you're in San Francisco during the KD Warriors, and everyone was making fun of KD for going to the Warriors. Is this KD Warriors for Mbappe? Like how seriously do we weigh an Mbappe Champions League if he wins with Real Madrid?
A Champions League win's a Champions League win. For me, it doesn't matter if you're with the stack team or if you're the Porto, no offense to Porto, like whoever, even with United these days, with how shit we are. A Champions League win is a Champions League win. It never goes underrated. I found it. I'm a bit of a fanboy when I watch Real Madrid celebrate things just because there's such a spectacle. It's like a concert. It's such a spectacle. Growing up as a kid, every time they won, even La Liga, like it would be such a spectacle. And as a kid, you're like, oh, why can't my club, have pyrotechnics and a light show at the stadium and have that different sort of culture? But now I'm not too fast. But watching watching the celebrations, watching how they do it, like Mbappe, they'll all. It's Mbappe is gonna get there, and I think we talked about it a week or two ago where you were saying, his ego, will he fit in the dressing room? Now stories come out today where Mbappe is obsessed with the number 10 shirt, like obsessed. Like I think he wears it for France. I believe obviously he's 7 at PSG. Luka Modric, Madrid legend, is currently holding the number 10.
Yeah.
He wasn't even asked, neither from Madrid nor from Mbappe. Mbappe is going to take the number 9. Now, for me, R9, Mbappe is kind of a similar mold to a young R9. Like for me, Mbappe 9 is just, it's made for, they're made for each other, them shirts. I always thought, and the number 9 is what he's going to go for. So Vinny at 7, him at 9, whoever gets the number 8 now that Cruz is retiring, Modric at 10, Rodrigo at 11. That is a scary. 8 might go to Endrick. Who knows? Let's see. I don't know what his number will be when he comes.
Yeah.
But the fact that he didn't even entertain it, he's like, no, Modric is a legend. We're not even gonna ask the question.
Yeah.
That already tells me that you know what he knows. And people are saying, obviously, Kylian's mad youngster. He's like 24, 25. He's been a superstar since he was 18. So when you're 18 and you have all this fame and the endorsements and that Paris distraction, you're going to be a little bit big-headed. But I think he's matured a lot now. Not that I know him, but looking at him now, I think he knows, like, all right, the party, the glitz is done now. Madrid is a glitzy city, don't get me wrong. Madrid is a glitzy club. Look at the way they celebrate.
Yeah.
But it's work, football first, glitz second. I think at PSG, it's more glitz lifestyle. Oh, yeah, there's football involved as well, but there's too many distractions. So I think him coming in, head down, if they keep the 4-4-2, the way Ancelotti likes to shape it, with Bellingham almost like a 10, obviously Rodrigo will be the one that drops out, Vinny and Mbappe up top. Does he switch up formation? I mean, why fix something if it's not broken? And I, for one, kind of like the idea of the 4-4-2 kind of coming back a little bit. Like I told you, it's always cyclical. So, when Pep first started back in 2009, it was always 4-4-2. United were killing it with 4-4-2 under Fergie for 9 years. Pep comes in with that 4-3-3 and then starts a false 9 and like, oh, 4-4-2 is extinct. But it always comes back around. Every 5 or 7 years, the cycle changes. It's always the same 5-7 formations, but the cycle changes. So I think I wouldn't be upset seeing the return of a 4-4-2, maybe a bit more of a rigid structure, at least in certain games, if you're playing certain teams.
Yeah.
But I think Mbappe I think they'll hit the ground running. They're obviously favourites for La Liga and Champions League again. But like the KD thing, is it too much? Is it like, you don't win it on paper? Like, how will the chemistry be? Will it be instant? It could be. Look at Bellingham. Or even if it takes some time, might take 3 to 6 months. I mean, the season starts kicking in gear in February anyway. That's when Madrid turn on. That's when Man City turn on in the league.
Yeah.
He might just start at the right time. I don't see, God forbid, an injury or anything like that. I don't see too much disruption. I see it well-oiled machine. Carlo Ancelotti, of all people, kills them with friendship, kills them with kindness. He's not going to overmanage that. Look, you know what you do. You do what you do that brought you here, but just, do it within the parameters of what this squad is. I believe he speaks the language already, so that's a big thing. There's a couple of French players in Tchouameni and others that'll help him settle in if he needs to. But it's exciting, man. What a week to be Madrid fans. Like Champions League 15th, and then Monday, Mbappe announced.
I do have to say though, like, let's say at the end of their career, Mbappe has 4 Champions Leagues and Haaland has 3.
Yeah.
What do you think is more impressive?
I do rate Champions League wins very highly, but for me, it's the holistic picture. What have they done in their career? How many goals have they scored? What kind of performances have they put in?
Yeah.
Like I said, Vinicius, not the deadliest of performances in Champions League finals, but 2 wins, two goals in 2 finals. Pretty solid, pretty consistent.
Yeah,
I think I would look at it holistically. Obviously, whoever has more Champions League, but again, I think we're spoiled. This is an era where we're talking about players with 6 Champions League. This hasn't happened since the 50s.
that's true.
This is
Yeah.
not this is not normal. But this is not normal things. A player had more than one. One in itself, fucking well done. You're in an elite club already. Two was
Although since '93, like you're right that like part of it is like we're spoiled, but also part of it is the changes that they made in '93 with like the way that the teams qualify. So for people who don't know, before '93, it was one club per country. And so it was
Mhm.
very difficult for a team to win multiple Champions Leagues because you only qualified like once every like 3 or 4 years.
You have to win
But
the
like
league.
now it's like if you're Madrid, you're qualifying every single year. If you're, you know,
Expansion, yeah,
Man
definitely. And
City, you're
historic.
qualifying every year.
Maybe not. Maybe after these 115 charges, maybe not.
Maybe
Maybe.
not, maybe not. Yeah, I mean, like I just kind of and it might be because I have a background in American sports, but for me, like, it's kind of like, the KD, kind of like LeBron. Like if you're going to a team that's already won 2 and 3 years, even if you win 3 or 4 titles, it's like, what did you really contribute to that? Like wouldn't Real have won like 2 or 3 titles even if you weren't there? And so the question for me is like, and to be fair, I'm also an Mbappe hater. I'm a Real Madrid hater. I'm just, this is the perfect combination of shit that I hate. So, I'm just ready
I
on the
think,
parade. But I can't believe I might start rooting for Man City, man. Like,
oof, that's a big shift. I think for me, going back historically, obviously I was bandwagon Warriors fan, lived and it was a great time to be. I'm still a Warriors fan, but I wouldn't say I watch all the games. Or I didn't even know they weren't even in the like the knockout stages of the NBA finals. I was like, oh, who are they playing? They didn't make it. Holy shit. So but for me, I think the comparison to KD is a lot similar to if you go back to 2008 after United just won the Champions League. Carlos Tevez was on loan. Yeah, Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo. For me, still the best trio in Premier League history. Salah, Firmino, Mane, very close, but just some of the goals in that 2008 season were just ridiculous. Fergie's mentality of always, we keep moving, keep Tevez being on loan. After that first year, we were all as fans hoping we are going to trigger it. He signs long term, 5-year deal, give this guy everything. He got spat on by John Terry in the final for God's sake. He takes bullets for your team. You loved it. I
yeah,
still love him. One United player that obviously whose relationship soured with the club, and I'd still honestly ask for his autograph. He's brilliant.
yeah,
We went and got literally almost like a KD style. We went and got Berbatov from Spurs that summer. We were this close with Man City, and we were like neck and neck, and we ended up getting him at the 11th hour. I
yeah,
was happy. I was celebrating, but I was thinking like Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo, Berbatov. Like it's almost like overkill. Like
yeah,
we're gonna run away with everything. Like, and we got to the final that year, but Berbatov being a different kind of player, a bit slower on the ball, completely opposite of Carlos Tevez, a lot more silkier, classier, looked lazy with his style. Did it really suit us? And we obviously we won the league again, but we lost the Champions League final to that Barcelona team, that first Guardiola Barca team.
yeah,
And you look back at it's like, did we really need him? He gave us some magical moments. There was like this little piece of skill by the touchline against West Ham his first season, set up Ronaldo for a 2-0 win. Unbelievable. He went on to score 5 goals in one game against Blackburn a few years later in 2011. So he was in super. He won trophies, great player. But was he exactly what we needed? Would I have, in hindsight, even at the time, would I have taken Tevez signing long term? Because obviously after the 2-year loan, he went to City and not signed Berbatov, or have Berbatov and lose Tevez. Ideally, keep both. But I just don't think we needed to tweak that much. I think our style changed a little bit, the way we played a little bit changed when we got Berbatov. And similar to when KD came, I believe that first year, I think they won it. But after that, it's not been as successful as everyone thought, where it was like, oh my God, they're just going to run away with everything. This guy's insane.
yeah,
With Mbappe, I just feel like with the way he plays, it's like having him and Vinny together. It's too good to be true. But yeah, let's see how he functions. I think him going to Spain as well, the France to Spain jump isn't as deadly as, let's say, a France to England jump or a Portugal
yeah,
to England jump. Do you know what I mean? So I think he'll
yeah,
be settled in quite quickly. Madrid themselves are going to do everything possible to make sure he's a success. Any whim he wants within reason, I think they'll accommodate. So for me, it just looks like, I mean, even Man City this year, like, let's be honest, they were one penalty kick away from probably going against Bayern and then winning, beating them, and then, winning the final again. So Champions League, they're favorites, but you need a lot of luck. I think La Liga, they're going to run away with it next year, to be honest, unless they just don't turn up. But I don't see Mbappe being at KD. I think this is going to be a very scary, transformative signing. especially under Ancelotti. Under another manager, maybe there might have been some friction, but I think it's going to be seamless. Ancelotti's loved. He's going to run through a brick wall for him like the rest of them. I think I'm kind of almost glad when United are in the Champions League this year. I don't have to have any false hope. I'm like, fuck it, Madrid, go and win the 16th. Screw it. Let's see some magic.
So I have a question for you.
Go on.
Here are two lineups, and I want you to tell me which one you think is better on paper. Okay,
Sure.
Vinicius Jr., Mbappe, Bellingham, Camavinga, Valverde, Rodrigo, Mendy, Nacho, Rudiger, Carvajal, Courtois. And then coming off the bench, we have Militao, Modric, Joselu, and Vasquez, right, as your top ones, right? So that's lineup one. Lineup number two, Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, Verratti, Paredes, Pereira, Mendes, Kimpembe, Marquinhos, Hakimi, Donnarumma, Maria, Draxler, Gay, and Icardi. And Ronaldo.
Easy answer. Wait, Ronaldo?
Wijnaldum.
Oh, Wijnaldum. Sorry, Junior Wijnaldum. Yeah. Oh, easy answer. The team smokes that PSG team. They beat them in midfield. Fede Valverde versus Verratti. That's a no competition. They're going to get smoked. They're going to get bullied off the ball. And in my opinion, just based off what I've seen historically, I think I spoke about it last week. I think Verratti just disappears in big games sometimes. It's easy on the eye, 2-0 up, spray it around a little bit. But when the nitty gritty happens, I think he just struggles and he gets bullied out of game. He disappears. There's a famous old quote English TV show: the player disappears in midfield.
The reason why I bring this up is because I remember 1,000 memes on Instagram when Messi signed for PSG about how they're going to be running rings around the entire league and they get knocked out in the round of 16. My question is, granted, like PSG has a much more rotten core, but do you think there's a chance of that similar dynamic happening at Real Madrid, or do you think it's going to be Messi, Suarez, name?
I think it's going to be Messi. I think it's going to be Messi. It's much closer than Messi. It's way closer. Like I think it's an 85-15 chance of it being Messi, Suarez, Neymar, as opposed to PSG. PSG, as I mentioned, rotten core, too many distractions, not the right coach.
Yeah,
and almost did it backwards when they were going for the Galactico stuff. They had a Christophe Galtier, young French coach. That's when they should have had Luis Enrique in to maybe manage the egos, and he's worked with them, just kind of leave him to it. Instead of that, they did it the other way. And then when they got the young French players in, they brought Enrique in instead of Galtier. So they almost did it backwards, and the results are what they are. No chance. No, I think even against that Madrid if that Madrid team played PSG, that PSG team, who's going to work harder? Neymar, Vinny. Who's going to work hard in the field? Valverde or Verratti? They're just going to get.
I'm just talking about on paper because the only point I'm trying to make with this is that coming into that season, we all thought PSG was invincible. I mean, like we all knew that there was something wrong in the core, but like that team, like I remember, like again playing this team in FIFA. Like I remember, like I played in a Champions League thing, and I just played their bench players, and I got to the Champions League final. Yeah. Like I just played their bench. So I'm just the only point I'm trying to make is that like sometimes a team can be very stacked and it just doesn't work out on the pitch. But I mean, meeting on Madrid, I think you're right. That I think that they win like 3-4 in a row.
I think the core's just I think the solid foundation. It's a Galactico star-studded team, but I think it's a lot of young, hungry players built on the foundations of Ronaldo, Ramos, Pepe, Casillas back in 2014. Like this isn't Carlo Ancelotti 2014 wins La Decima. Carlo Ancelotti 2024 wins number 15. It's almost a full circle.
Yeah.
And he had, the players, Ronaldo, Pepe. Now he's got Vinny and these guys coming up. And you've got, I remember Reus, Modric were the young boys in that Ronaldo team. They were the guys coming up, and Ronaldo with Alonso, Pepe, Ramos, Casillas. These guys were they set the tone. They set the bar. Reus, Modric, and co have now taken that bar. Carvajal, they were the young boys. They've carried it on. What's coming underneath now, Vinny and Mbappe, like it's just scary. It's almost it's a factory, it's a lineup, revolving door of just brilliant talent under the right management. Ancelotti being there in 2014, being now in 2024. It's so honestly, there's probably been no better time other than the 50s to be a Madrid fan. Like they're just blessed. No stress.
I gotta start watching like South American football because this is too depressing for me. Like,
United, you know what? In a way, United being so shit. Like I remember in the early 2000s, solid, and we used to compete with Real Madrid and get knocked out by them in like 2000 and then in 2003. R9 scored that crazy hat trick at Old Trafford. And it was like, oh, you were great, and it's good that we're up there, but fuck, man, these guys are too good. Barcelona and
Yeah.
late 2000s, early 10s. Us being so shit, I can kind of just sit back and enjoy watching good football. Like, oh, we're nowhere near this. Like, we'll deal with our top four battle and, hopefully keep Ten Hag. But it's nice just watching, a club that I don't really have to hate too much. If it was Barca, I'd be more pissed because of the history. The fact that they, again, not to keep bringing it up, the fact that they've squashed Liverpool a few times recently, also, I'm like, yeah, go on, Madrid. They're so far ahead. Why not? Just keep lapping everyone.
Yeah.
I love watching the celebrations. Like over the weekend, I think it came out today and yesterday, the videos. They go to the stadium, they go to the famous statue and put the flag and the scarf around the neck.
The cigar.
Watching Nacho. So Ancelotti and his cigars, it's brilliant. Like it's just everything you'd want. It's so wholesome and just fun. And like I said, they're just lucky fans.
Yeah. No, I mean it is. I mean, like for people from Madrid, I obviously feel good for them as like a Yankees fan from New York. Like the people who you don't like are the people from around the world who are Madrid fans. I just like, okay, you're just hopping on the bandwagon. But like people from Madrid, and then also Spain is kind of a shithole country. I don't know if you know this, but Spain, their GDP per capita has decreased by 40% since 2008. So they're going to be a third world country soon. So I guess they should have something to be happy about. Sorry, this is just me.
I can hear the pain. I can hear the pain. No, I can hear that little Scouse pain in you. Don't worry. Don't worry. I personally, I'm a huge fan of Spain. I love that country. I love the people. They're great.
Yeah.
Super friendly.
So who do you think is the big contenders? So we have Man City.
I think Liverpool and Arsenal will be in and around if we're talking about continental success. Arsenal hopefully will look to kick on. They were unlucky against Bayern, slim margins. They're interested in the striker Benjamin Sesko. I think it's a brilliant signing. 50 million euros, not too expensive. I think he's got a bit of an injury record, but he's come back strong. I think if Arsenal get him and maybe another left back, I would say, I think they have to be super close, especially if Ederson leaves City. I think Arsenal for me are low-key favorites for the league next year because they're always growing every year. So them, Liverpool will be in and around City, Madrid. I mean, let's see what Bayern do on the company. Let's see who they sign. They're chasing our boy Fernandez quite strongly, but I don't think he's going to go unless we fuck that up.
I had a really silly fucking argument on Twitter today. I want to hear your thoughts on it if you don't mind. I'm gonna pull this up right now because it was just so stupid. So somebody shared the team of the season for Serie A, and it was Lautaro Martinez, Pulisic, this whole team, and they asked, "Do you think this team could win a Champions League final?" And my buddy was like, "Not even close." And this other person responded, "We're 1 year removed from having an Italian team in the finals, 2 in the semis, and 3 amongst the final 8. It was a bad UCL season for sure, but the top Italian teams are still good enough to beat anyone on any given day." And personally, like, look, I want Italy to kind of like get reconstituted. I want them to get better. I think a good Italy is good for the league. But I think that it's just kind of delusional in my mind to think that Italy is on par with Spain, England, and Germany. Like, and last year, like, yeah, they did like go really far. But when you look at that bracket, all of the best teams were on Manchester City's side. Like it wasn't. Like, I counted out like the top 6 teams were all on Man City's side, and it was all just like the Portos and Benficas on Inter Milan side. And like I think it's just a matter of how the draw happens that Inter Milan got there. Like if there was like based upon results, there's no way they would have gotten to the finals. What do you think?
I agree in a sense. I think again, due to like the economic powers of certain leagues, I think Italy have fallen off in recent times. I remember, the last time you really felt Italy were up there, I'd say early 2010s, like really up there, like Zlatan's AC Milan, Inter's Jose's treble winning Inter, like that was a team. It was almost after Mourinho left and went to Madrid. Benitez came in and kind of just, I don't know how he fucked that up. I'm not knocking him. Rafa's a tactician, but
and that team had Eto'o also, right? Or am I thinking about?
No. Eto'o went from Barca that summer, won it with Mourinho. Jose had that whole team, and you remember, Tottenham's first season in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And Gareth Bale lost the game 4-3, but they were 3-0 down, and Gareth Bale running down the wing, he kind of introduced himself to the world and basically retired Maicon in that group stage game. I think that was kind of the changing of the guard a little bit.
Yeah.
Any given day, anyone can beat anyone. And what I like is there's always the argument of, the brackets. So United in 2011 had a pretty decent run to the Champions League final. Schalke was our semi-finalist, with all due respect. But then
Yeah.
you have to be, at some point, you're going to come across the big boys, whether it's in the final, the quarters, the last 16. The beauty of the Champions League, especially these days, what you're noticing is the big teams are unavoidable. There's an easy run made, easier run,
Yeah.
but if you win it, you gotta beat the best. So Inter getting to the final, great job. But then when they got to the final, again, without sounding too harsh, they did fall short.
Yeah, I get to say this, like, this is even saying as a Liverpool fan, we're 2 years back, like, we did have an easy run to the final. There's no question about that. I wish it wasn't true, but we had Benfica, then we had Inter, and then we had Valencia. And it's like of Villarreal. Yeah. It's just like, look, like, I mean, that Villarreal team did beat Juventus, which was a great game on their part. But
It was a good semi-final. It was close. I remember sitting at work in Vancouver looking at the scorelines. It was my lunch break because of the time difference. I'm thinking, holy shit, Villarreal are in this. And then obviously
yeah. And then,
yeah.
it changes.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Jose Mourinho going to Turkey?
I love it. I loved watching the reception he got. He deserves that kind of love, honestly. Like, this is his people now. Like, obviously it's not, top league, this and that, but I hope he wins them like a Europa League or does well in the Champions League for him. Like, I hope he gets a few scalps. Like, if he goes to like a Bayern away or even a Madrid away or something, nicks a result. The
Yeah.
fans love him. He deserves it. I think Roma did him a little bit dirty. I think we definitely did him dirty. Spurs just inexcusable. Like, 6 days before a cup final, that's the most Spurs thing. Might not. Hopefully, doesn't see that she's a Spurs fan, but it's the most Spurs thing to do. Like, sack a guy that's notoriously for winning one-off cup finals 6 days before a cup final.
Yeah.
So I love it. I'm looking forward. I'll keep one eye on it. Yeah, it's brilliant. The Turkish fans are always, them scenes of every time United go to Galatasaray '95, welcome to hell. Even Cantona was like, what the fuck is this? Like, so their fans a little maybe over the top. I'd love to go to a game in Turkey at some point. It's on the list, but obviously safely, not going too mad.
I mean,
No,
like,
good on him.
It seems like a
A
little
big
bit of
team.
a fall from grace, like Jose Mourinho in Turkey. But I do admire it where the guy's just like, I need a job. Like, I just love football. I want to coach.
I think it's a smart, calculated move because Fenerbahce, it's Turkish league, all right, whatever. But Fenerbahce are consistently, at least at the group stage of the Champions League, like, it's a big club, and they go and play. I think them guys, Galatasaray, Besiktas, like, these clubs are always seen in European competition. So either gets a few scalps in the Champions League. If they end up in the Europa League, very good chance of winning it.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's staying reasonably relevant. He's got a blend of reasonable relevancy in a league where I don't think any of the top managers have been in Turkey for a long time. So he's again trailblazing. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to Turkey and bring up the value of the Turkish league. And just the fans, those are his people. He's gonna get the support he wants. He's adored out there. Good on him. I'm looking forward. We might get him in the Europa League. I don't know where they finished, but United versus that Fenerbahce team in Turkey. Jesus, Mourinho is going to be rubbing his hands.
Yeah, I mean, he needs a fan base that loves him, and I heard that was the problem with Roma, was that he was too Mourinho, and they basically wanted like a sanitized team that they could sell to like sponsors. And then you get Mourinho doing all the Mourinho things. I like my thought about Mourinho. I was thinking about this weekend, and I want to hear your thoughts. Bayern. What are your thoughts about Mourinho to Bayern?
It wouldn't work. I'll tell you why it wouldn't work. Same reason he had a falling out in Real Madrid. Because Mourinho, up until that Real Madrid spell, and obviously a little bit at Chelsea towards the end in the first spell, it was siege mentality. Us versus everyone. I run the whole club from top to bottom. You hear conversations with John Terry. John Obi Mikel has a great podcast. He's had all the Chelsea boys on. They talk about he controlled everything from top to bottom. A bit of that Ferguson style control.
Yeah.
When he went to Madrid, there's a whole hierarchy. There's a whole team of people. Jorge Valdano was like his boss, and then his boss's boss was Perez. He couldn't do well in that structure. It was too big, almost like everyone comes to Madrid and not bigger than the club. Bayern are run very similarly, where young man. I mean, look at Nagelsmann. He was doing a perfectly fine job. Even Tuchel, the board always says something silly. It's ex-players. There's too many opinions. There's too many. When it works brilliantly. I mean, last 11 years, Bayern have been taking the piss. Winning all the leagues.
Yeah,
decent in the Champions League. But when it crumbles, when there's when things are going well, rosy, everything's everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. But if things start going a little bit awry and things start falling apart, Too many accusations, too many fingers being pointed. It's a mess. Mourinho to Bayern would have been a catastrophic mess. Style of play as well. It would have been, he would have been arguing with them from day one. It would have been a tough sell. I think with company, they've got almost like a, I don't want to knock him because I just don't think he's up there yet. I think it's an early appointment. He might prove us wrong, obviously, but I think with company, they've kind of got like a get out of jail free card. Oh, Guardiola's apprentice, ex player. Let's give him a chance. Oh, we gave him a chance. This year's almost like a free hit if they don't win the league or if they flop again. Oh, inexperienced manager, this and that. They've almost given themselves a way out after the calamitous manager search. So yeah, Mourinho to Bayern. I thought I was really hoping Mourinho to Newcastle. They spend a bit of Wonga, a bit of money, start, that solid defense. They can build on that. Hopefully, no injuries to Nick Pope and like Sven Botman, who's an unbelievable centre back, very underrated. I was hoping Mourinho to Newcastle. I didn't want him to go to Saudi. I'm sick of seeing all this stuff going, like being ambassador, all that stuff. But Mourinho, him going to Saudi would just be tragic, especially right now. Go afterwards. And
Yeah.
another thing about Turkey, I hope he enjoys the beaches, great weather, great food. I think it's going to be holistically the whole approach, the whole image. I think Mourinho for his family and everyone, I think it's a very good move. I think it's very under. It's a bit like when Steven Gerrard went to Rangers, and you're like Scottish League, but big club in the Scottish League, sleeping giant, and he killed it with them. So I think it's a very tactical move. I think it's smart. There won't be too much pressure in terms of like domestically they do pretty well. In European competition, they'll take what they can get. But Mourinho's tactics, a decent transfer window,
Yeah.
crazy fans, crazy atmosphere. Let's see how they do.
I mean, I think that Mourinho at Newcastle would be perfect just because I think that. So is De Ligt still at Bayern? He is,
Yes.
right? Like, but he's kind of on the way out at Bayern, and I think that he's expensive, but
Yeah,
like Newcastle could afford him, and De Ligt is kind of the perfect Mourinho center back. I think
yeah, it's big, strong, can play
big,
out.
strong,
One
slow.
question mark. One question mark would be fitness. Mourinho hates people on the treatment table, so I don't think I might be knocking him a bit, but I think his injury record, especially for such a young player, I think Mourinho would have some issues with that.
That's true. Yeah. I just want him to have one last run. I want him to have one last run in Europe. I want him to get one last chance to
I
really
want him
coach.
to, yeah, if he can
What?
get if he can get the third Champions League and level with Pep, like that would just make me happy. Like just good. Like right now, obviously Pep's got one more, Fergie
Yeah,
and Mourinho two. But again, that goes back to my point of six players with six Champions League. Legendary managers only have two or three. It's insane the times we're living. The fact that we're talking about, again, with all due respect, players like Nacho Fernandez and others who are club legends, but if you look in the annals of history, six Champions Leagues really.
yeah.
So
I do think, and this is not me coming from a place of Pep hatred, but like Mourinho's two Champions Leagues are way more impressive than Pep's three. Like I
oh yeah,
think any objective observer has to agree with that. Especially because Barca won 2 years before Pep. Like they literally had just won. And by the way, Messi, I think that Messi, I don't want to like open up this can of worms, but like Messi gets unfair credit for 2006. If you look, he only played 25 games throughout the entire season. Like he wasn't, he didn't really contribute to that. So basically, you got 2006 plus Messi, and also like did Thierry Henry came in after 2006 as well, right? Or was he on that 2006 squad?
So Henry came in the summer of 2007. So
Yeah,
2008 was his first year. They didn't win anything, and then Guardiola came in that summer of 2008, and then Henry was struggling. Apparently, I think he's opened up. He was struggling a little bit mentally and just wasn't feeling the culture. I think he got some help, and like because Henry in 2008 didn't look like Henry. It was sad to watch. Like
yeah,
from Henry going to that, but then in 2009 he kind of it wasn't the same Henry in terms of like blistering pace, but playing out on that left wing, cutting in on the inside, like he was rejuvenated. So it was good. Obviously not good
yeah.
because we lost. As a neutral, it was nice to see him sort of find himself again.
So it doesn't seem like there's any place for our boy Pep, which really upsets me. I mean, our boy Jose, which upsets me. I'd love to see.
I think if he does really well with Istanbul, sorry, with Fenerbahce in Turkey, like let's say really well is like definitely a couple scalps in the Champions League group stage, or if he goes reasonably far, wins obviously the league. I think they're expected to win the league or be top two. I think if he has a little renaissance here, man, never say never, man. Like Claudio Ranieri, Leicester manager, never won a league title in his whole career.
Yeah,
Chelsea, you're thinking, oh, he's the big jobs, he's done them, and he hasn't really. wins it with Leicester. Obviously, that's a ridiculous story. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you
Yeah,
just never know. You get your shot. Life is obviously swings and roundabouts. Ancelotti sacked by Everton 2024, 15 Champions League for Real Madrid. Like, what the hell? Like, football
yeah,
is a very sport in general, but football especially, it can change in the space of, like, for me, it would have been super funny, ironically funny, because I wouldn't have enjoyed it. Ten Hag gets sacked by United, goes to Bayern, kills it at Bayern. All of a sudden, 2 years later, Champions League winner. You're like, fucking great, typical, just typical, wouldn't it? And I want it.
typical.
I want the way we're treating him now is criminal. If I was him, I'll tell United to fuck off and leave. He
Yeah.
he he deserves way more respect. It's disgusting the way the club's treating him.
I don't think it's criminal the way that the fans are treating him. I don't think it's criminal.
No, I think it's criminal because look, it's been over a week now. What's the decision? What's the holdup? Tell him the man's just standing there in limbo. Our transfer targets are standing there in limbo. Like, what do we do?
Sorry. I thought you were talking about just the general vitriol towards him.
Oh no. Fans are
Yeah,
stupid. Fans can make whatever decision they want, whatever. No one cares.
yeah,
But I'm saying the way the club is treating him, winning the
yeah,
FA Cup. Oh yeah, we'll make a decision soon. This is typical Glazer United. I thought Jim Ratcliffe was coming in to make changes. Like, how long is this going to take? Or at least communicate a deadline, at
yeah,
least, or a rough deadline. Every day I just wake up like, oh my God, is he getting sacked? And it gets to a point where it's like, all right, it's been over a week. It's coming up to 2 weeks now. It's like applying for a job and you get to like final stage interview, whatever. Oh yeah, we'll let you know in a week. And it's been like 3 weeks. And you don't even hear back to say there's an update. Like, oh, we're still, debating or deciding. It's criminal. It's disgusting. It puts you off. I've been in scenarios before where, like, if I'm applying for a job and I don't hear back for 3 weeks, I don't even want the job now.
yeah.
Just because that up the emotions of every day, you're just holding someone onto limbo.
I mean, my question is, why does that process take you 2 weeks? Because if you think about like you're the Glazers, right? Or like whoever's making that decision, right? Why 2 weeks? I feel like you can make that decision within 4 hours. I think you can bring in everybody into a meeting room, have a 4 hour meeting where you hash everything out, then you sleep on it, come in the next day, hour and a half, go to lunch, come back in, half an hour meeting, make the decision. Why 2 weeks? Like, what else are you doing that like
I
like a chess tournament? You have to
Oh,
focus on?
for me, there's a famous, but it's like a typical English phrase or football phrase I use a lot that some of the boys, like Chris and the boys, know. It's bottle job. So right
Yeah,
now, United are bottling it right now in terms of the decision. I personally think because apparently even yesterday, the day before, according to Fabrizio Romano, they're still like sounding out possible candidates to replace him. I think before the FA Cup final, win or lose, they had decided Ten Hag is out.
yeah,
Now the manner of performance, the way the fans were behind him, they've now bottled it and they've heard fans. But like Sir Jim and all that, just Jim Ratcliffe. He doesn't get the Sir. That's only for Sir Alex Ferguson. Jim Ratcliffe's come in. Oh, I'm going to be decisive. I'm going to, he's same at Nice. He sacked managers at Nice that were doing a pretty half decent job because he's like this results now orientation. He's come in now and he's realized, oh shit, these United fans. He got a lot of backlash online. I think they've turned around the corner and said, oh shit, like this guy's too popular to sack it. Like we need to make it. What are the optics on this
yeah,
essentially? Need the fans on side. Like he's already come out and said he's going to cut so many non-playing staff jobs to like cut costs at Man United. So he's really kind of putting his foot in it this week, and he's not helping himself. I wasn't super excited about him. It's the team behind him, like Sir Dave Brailsford. He gets a Sir because he's pretty legit. Um, Jean-Claude Blanc. These football guys, Jason Wilcox. These people, this team behind him that they're building. I expect. Obviously, they're just getting started. Dan Ashworth hasn't come in yet from Newcastle. I expect a lot better. I'm gonna give them a little bit of leeway because they're just forming a team right now that should have been there already. But
yeah,
moving forward, after this, hopefully this week, if it goes past Friday, it's disgusting. It's already pretty shitty, but it's disgusting if they don't make a final decision. How can Madrid already announce Mbappe on Monday and we still don't know Ten Hag is going to be in or out? Like this is insane. And there's transfer targets out there that we could easily get that are standing there thinking, hold on, I'm not going to agree anything yet. Rightfully so, because I don't know who the manager is, what the
yeah.
direction is, what we're doing.
It's an important
And I don't know
question.
if you saw it's like, your whole future, the next 3 to 5 years of your career could be in the hands of someone may not have the best intentions or may not rate you the way Ten Hag does.
Yeah,
So it's just it's the most main thing. It's just holding up the whole process now. The Euros are about to start. Like I was optimistic coming into it in April, May, but now I'm like, it's gonna be another typical Man United fucking transfer window. Just
it's
disgrace.
not even about intention. It's also like if you are a certain type of player who's coming in, and they're bringing in a coach whose style doesn't fit with yours, It could be a great coach, a coach you love, but it's like, sorry, like I'm just not that person's player, right? Like if you're bringing in like Emmanuel Neuer as a goalie, but you have like a Pep Guardiola, like that's just not a fit. You know what I mean? Like they're just different types of you know fits.
Put it
Like,
this
so
put it this way: you talk about well-run clubs, and
yeah,
I've been thinking about this today. Actually, thinking about United and the whole situation. How confident was everyone that Ancelotti was going to Brazil next year? How confident? I was going to put good money on it. Interesting timing. We said, oh, it's because the Champions League final. You wanted to. Well, they've just signed Mbappe, huge player, massive player. Maybe Ancelotti sat them like, you know what? If I say I'm going in a year and we sign this kid, maybe the first year might be a little bit tumultuous. He might not settle in. He might be a bit afraid of who's coming in next. Maybe for the sake of not just steadying the ship, but keeping all our ships in the same direction and everything running smoothly. Even if I do plan on leaving in a year or two, I'm not going to talk about it. Everything's rosy. I'm here for the long term, business as usual. Mbappe just comes in, another cog in the machine, and we just crack on.
yeah,
Look how, I'm not saying that's what they did, but even if they did conceive that, like, look how carefully they're planning. I hope that is the case. That'd be brilliant. That'd be nice that I figured it out as well. But like, look how carefully they do things. The Modric situation, not even talking about taking the number 10 shirt out of respect. Small things like this, you're just like, what a it's a little detail sometimes. You're like, Jesus, that's a well-run club, as opposed
yeah.
to wins the FA Cup. Oh, we want to sack. At this point, as much as I want Ten Hag in, I'm sick of them bottling it. Bunch of bottle jobs. I'm like, you know what? If you want to sack him, just sack him. Stick to a decision. Stop this limbo, half in, half out bullshit. Because it's not
Yeah,
fair on him at all. It's not fair on the fans. And if this is how you're going to operate moving forward, we're even bigger trouble than we were with the Glazers.
I remember, and like I don't want to like go into politics at all, but like this is just the first thing that occurred to me. I remember in 2004, during the election, like George Bush like ran as like the decider. He was like, I'm a decisive guy. John Kerry is like a waffler. I remember like I was a kid, and I was just like, who cares like if you're decisive? Like if you make the wrong decision quickly, that's worse. And then I became older, and I realized no, actually, making the wrong decision quickly can be better than making the right decision after weeks. Like like
Decision
speed matters.
dynamic.
As you said, you have free agents, and like these free agents, like everything happens in this 1 week. Like it really like once someone starts contract negotiations, it's really difficult to swoop in, as we saw with Caicedo last year with Chelsea. And here's the thing: Liverpool didn't even bottle that. We operated under the normal timetable for Caicedo, and he was like, "Sorry, I've already made a decision." And it's like, "What are you talking about? It's May." Like, but he already made a decision. I will say one thing that's really shocking to me. You said that the new menu people came in and they were saying that like we're results driven. We want results. And it's shocking that just going around and yelling, we want results doesn't get you results. I thought it would. I thought all you have to do is just say, I want results, and then you get results. But it
So,
turns out that doesn't work.
Dave, Dave Brailsford, or Sir Dave Brailsford, he's known. He rejuvenated like the cycling team, Team Sky. They built them from the ground up. They're award winning now. They're from zero to nothing. He comes in. His big thing is marginal gains, like incremental increases every day, every week, every month to overall get better. I love that idea. It's not going to be one big swoop jump. A 500, half a billion transfer window, and all of a sudden we're kings of Europe next year. This is going to take time, but you need to have the mentality to think, okay, even if we lose a result or we get a bad result, marginal gains, are we going up the right trajectory? Under Ten Hag, I think we are. We definitely are. Furthermore, so I thought okay, they'll take a couple of days, they'll do an audit, they look at the club as a whole, they'll make a decision within a week. The fact that like it's over 2 weeks, it's coming to 2 weeks now, and there's just no communication. Like, yeah, we're coming close. There's whispers from all these people. They're still talking to Tuchel. They're still talking to De Zerbi. Who'd want to be Ten Hag right now? You just won the cup, not just won the cup, deadly performance. The players behind you should be lifted. You should be enjoying your holidays. The fact that he has to answer for like, oh, why have you paid these exorbitant? He came out the other day and I love this. This is why I think he's the man. Everyone bitches and complains about United's transfer business. You spent 90 million on Anthony, whatever. He comes out, he goes, I didn't pay that money. I said a player I wanted. The club negotiated whatever deal they negotiated. That's not on me. That's brilliant. I love that. Good on him. Because
Yeah.
he's right. You can say, and you know, we could have got Anthony for 20, 30 million cheaper. These dickheads kept taking too long that summer and then got him at the 11th hour. That's what takes, that's what adds up the price. Not if you go in May or June, end of July, beginning of August, end of August, if you're going in the last few days, if you already played 3 games of the season, you've lost, of course the price is going to get driven up. So good on him. I'm so glad he defended himself. No one talks about it. Managers don't set prices, the clubs do.
So
And then
it seems like Man U fans are turning pro Ten Hag. Like it seems like the
let's see.
tides are shifting.
Yeah, I think the general tide is shifting in his way. I've always been Ten Hag in. I don't think I've had a moment where obviously you have like, there's the 7-0 loss to you guys. There's been bad games, 6-3 to City. We've had some bad results. But overall, I'm like, give this guy time. It's a 3-year contract, let him see it out. Now it's just a case of, I think the tides have shifted, and these guys just for the optics are like, shit, I don't think we can sack him and still be the popular guys that we want to be at Old Trafford. So, but I think right now the indecision, the bottling it, it's getting worse and worse. It should really be settled in the next day or two. If it goes, or even if it gets to Friday and then they make a choice, it's disgusting. These
Yeah.
guys are absolutely jobs. They can't make decisions as they said they could. So let's see.
Well, one of my questions is, do you think that they're just doing this to show that they're being decisive? Because I know a lot of people will a lot of times just like string out a decision because they think it looks good to spend more time considering it, and it's just like this doesn't look good. It looks bad, and just move forward with what you need to
Yeah.
do.
Whatever direction you want to go in, if you don't have the confidence, how are you going to have all the supporters? If you don't believe in your own decisions, how are you going to get 76,000 every weekend, every game to believe in you and the millions around the world? Right or wrong, you just stick to your convictions. Ten Hag, that's the reason we respect him. Right or wrong, he sticks
Yeah.
to his convictions. And for me, the history of United, the last 10 years, the indecision, the stupid mistakes, not even the mistakes, but the way we've come about, the time we take to agree contracts with players and transfer fees with clubs and the way we get ripped off. You're hoping these boys come in the way they're talking, the way they've acted at previous places. You're like, oh, finally, smart heads, smart money. And they're doing the same thing. It's just even worse. There's just no decision. You're like, oh, it's like Ed Woodward's back, man. It's like, oh, God damn it. Like,
Yeah.
how much worse can it get? Like, the only way it can get worse is if they wait till next week and then they do sack him and then we get Southgate in. That's the only way. Like, I don't know if you watched the England game today. Like, we won 3-0, but it was not the greatest performance. Trent, your boy Trent actually scored on the volley, edge of the box. It was
Nice.
pretty decent. So I just watched the football he's playing and some of the decisions he makes. I'm thinking, God, if they bring in Southgate and we just sign a couple of duds, it could get a lot worse, a lot worse. So I'm really annoyed. I've kind of used the Real Madrid celebrations to distract myself. I'm like, oh, this is a ideal club. Ideally,
Yeah.
one day my club, these levels versus reality. So
Yeah, I mean, for me,
yeah,
I just don't like. I mean, it was a tough game for me because I hate Real Madrid, but I also hate the nation of Germany. So it's just like it's like
you don't like Spain, you don't like Germany. Who do you like? I know you like the Brits.
I like the
Who do you like?
Brits. Oh no. So I'll say I like Spain in theory. No, I don't like Spain. I like England. I
Well,
like Italy.
yeah, I feel like you got a soft place for Italy.
Yeah, no, I don't like Germany. I don't like France. I don't really like Europe in general. Um, I mean, I like Poland, obviously. I like some Eastern European countries, but yeah, no, I mean, there's you have to understand, like my so like as a Polish child, your education is just a long list of people that you hate, and like long explanations as to why you hate these people. Going back centuries. Like I remember, like when I visited my grandma like 2 months ago, she literally had like a sentence where she was like, "The Latvians have been riding Poland's coattails since the 1200s." And then she like went into like a long thing about this battle of this year. It's like European hatreds go back a lot. I mean, like our hatred of Germany is like a very concrete thing. Obviously, there was World War II, and then they also they conquered Poland in 1790, 1790 to 1923, and sorry, 1787 to 1920. And for 123 years, it was illegal for Polish people to speak Polish in Poland. So there's a lot of they basically try to eradicate the idea of Poland. They try to say, no, Polish people do not exist anymore. So there's a lot of angry feelings towards the Germans for Poland for Poland's end. So yeah, one funny thing is I actually mentioned this in my soccer chat. I remember there was a conversation one time I was talking to my grandfather, and he said, "I'll never drive a BMW or a German car because of what Germany did to Poland." And my grandma said, "You'll never drive a German car because you're too poor to afford one." But yeah, no, I mean, there are a ton of Polish people who will never drive a German car because like also like Mercedes used Holocaust labor during World War II. BMW used Holocaust labor.
Oh, yeah,
Audi
I heard
used
about that.
Holocaust labor. So it's like you're literally it's like my grandfather was making ball bearings for
Oh,
Mercedes in a concentration camp.
oh
I don't know
shit.
how I
Oh,
feel about like driving other cars, So that's kind of the history. With Spain, my dislike of Spain is much more contemporary. Um, I just like my beef with Europe is like they just love regulation. They just love a nanny state. Also, like a lot of Europeans, and this doesn't happen a lot with Brits, but it happens a lot with other Europeans. They have this like snobbery towards the United States, where they kind of look down on us. And I'm just like,
right, right. Yeah.
you guys are becoming a third world country. Chill out. Like, anyway, sorry, this is just me venting. A lot of this
Yeah, no,
podcast
it's all
is me venting anger,
right.
but I love Greece. I spent a day in
I need
Athens,
to.
and I want to go back and actually like spend like more time there because I really enjoyed Athens.
Yeah, Greece is on my list now. It's worked its way up quite a bit recently. I've heard very good things. Food's
Yeah.
amazing as well.
Um, do we have anything else on the agenda? If you want, I can talk about more European countries I hate. I'm just joking.
It's funny to hear you talk. I feel like all great lessons, like at least that I've seen, like friends and family friends, it's not like all great history lessons is always built up on like we hate. It's like just a hate list. Like same with football. Like you got as a United fan, when my cousins got me into it, it was like, oh, we hate Liverpool, we hate Leeds, we hate Arsenal, we hate City as well, but City weren't nothing back then. So you just get this whole, and then you hate, just you start hating Chelsea, and yeah, so it's just interesting. I always find like some of these things, sport, other things, like you just get this list of like, all right, you don't even get told too much why. You just like when you're a young age, like you're 5, 6 years, you're like, oh, I hate Liverpool. Okay, great. I hate Liverpool. Okay, I hate City. I hate Arsenal. Great. The Arsenal hate Liverpool because I watched obviously the 2000s, the football, the rivalry was insane. So yeah, I definitely hate Arsenal.
So I
Um,
actually think that that's a beautiful thing about sports. And we talk about this a lot, but like I really believe this is that like, hating other groups of people is just a normal part of human existence. You
yeah,
can't shake it. It's just going to happen. And like what used to happen is you'd have two cities that hated each other and they'd go to war with each other, right? Or you'd have two races of people that go to war with each other. Now it's like you hate this other football club and you're able to channel that hatred without it actually being
yeah, it's
self-destructive.
healthy. Yeah, yeah, it's actually healthy. Like you don't necessarily hate people. Oh, you support that club. I hate that club. So by association, I hate
Yeah.
you, but not really. Kind of.
I
It's a
mean, like
healthy channel. It's like yeah,
I hate Real Madrid, as I said, like they're my big nemesis. But like I went to a Real Madrid game and I had a great time. I didn't like, I
oh,
didn't fight anybody. Like
yeah, yeah.
it was a great time, you know what I mean? So yeah.
No one fights at the Bernabeu. They're too busy watching their team and everything. Like everyone's just happy. You're just like it's almost impossible to fight probably in a Real Madrid stadium. It's like, oh, why would I fight you? We're winning titles left, right, and center.
it
Poor
was,
you.
it was
Oh,
a
you're not.
great experience. Like I highly recommend people go to the Bernabeu. I want to do a soccer tour of Europe.
Yeah.
That's one of my goals in life.
Oh, it's
But
funny because I remember watching seeing the trophy room back in like 2008 on pictures and stuff, like 2009, thinking, oh my god, that Real Madrid trophy room is going to be insane to go see. They've only gone and won 6 European Cups since, so it's going to be even more glamorous when I eventually do go see it. So I keep delaying. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll wait for them to get 20, and it'll be dope to see 20 Champions Leagues, European Cups around each other. So yeah, it's insane. I think they showed us a still image of it the other day, without the 15th, just the 14 European Cups, and you're like, holy shit. Them all like next to each other, you're like, oh my god, like just insane.
yeah. No,
Crazy.
it's a great stadium, and like you really feel like you're like on top of the pitch. Like you can really like there are a lot of stadia you go to where like you feel like really like removed. This one you
Oh
really
no,
feel like you're there. And like, one thing that happens to me a lot when I watch live sports, just because I like 99% of the time I watch it on TV, is like I'll see a goal and I'll think to myself, I hope they do an instant replay of this. And then I'm like, oh wait, they can't because it's the people, Keep on waiting
Give
for
me
that.
1 second. Sorry, I just gotta let the dog out. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realize he was underneath the table. He's trying to get out from the door.
Yeah, I've been getting like pinged from a client during our conversation. I've just been like telling him to go away the whole time.
Yeah. Um, so World Cup, no World Cup, sorry, Mbappe, Champions League final. I think we've covered majority of the stories. Bit of a
Yeah.
United one as well.
Do you? I guess the last interesting story is: do you think that we're going to see a title shift in Bundesliga? Because Bundesliga has always been, you know,
Yeah,
Bayern
yeah,
and everybody else. Like now you have Bayer Leverkusen winning, Dortmund in the
yeah.
UCL final. Like, could it be a three team race? I think that that's a lot better for football. By the way, like to have
I heard from I heard
Bundesliga.
from a good friend the other. I heard from a good friend the other day that Leverkusen are trying to sign the solid one of the like centre mids from Girona, the team that finished third in Spain. This City's sister club.
Yeah,
So I think back to the scenes, Leverkusen, they're going to lose a couple of players, but I think if they don't lose more than two and Alonso gets a few shrewd signings in, they're definitely up there. And I'll be very intrigued to see how they do in the Champions League this year. It'll be,
yeah.
a
I
lot of maiden as a manager. Let's see how he does. I think Dortmund, they'll have definitely, I always believe in teams having a hangover after the Champions League final. Definitely.
yeah.
They lost the league on the last day last year. They still got to a Champions League final this year. Let's see how they recover. Sancho, what he does with his career. I'm just want to put it. I'm so glad he lost. Screw him. Like I'm so
I,
happy he
I
lost.
think that with Leverkusen for me, it's a question of Florian Wirtz. Like if they sit down with Florian Wirtz and they're just like, here's a check, write a number,
He's staying.
and
He's
put
staying this year. Yeah,
and put
he's staying.
5 years.
Yeah,
If they
cool.
do that, then they are serious about a long haul. I mean, what 1 year is basically, hey, Xabi Alonso's coming back. We want we want to do a double, but we're not serious about a long-term project. If they
Yeah.
if they sign him to a 5 year deal, and then even it doesn't even have to be like a big star. Like if they bring in like a Pulisic, no, it has to be a little bit better than Pulisic, kind of like a Bernardo Silva, like someone of that caliber. Then you're like, okay, this is a team that really wants to
Own
take
him.
on
Yeah.
Bayern.
That's the thing with the Girona star, that midfielder. I forgot his name. I think it's Garcia or Javi
Yeah,
Garcia or something like that. But, that would be a very shrewd signing. If he gets a few in, only loses maybe two players tops. They're definitely in it this year. And then Alonso, there's no harm in him staying potentially if Ancelotti's at Madrid and Arnie Slot's doing all right at Liverpool and companies, whoever's at the Bayern head of Bayern at that time. There's nothing wrong with Alonso. He's still very young. Like stays a couple years at Leverkusen, and that in turn keeps players like Florian Wirtz, who's also still very young. Good couple years in the Bundesliga, build on that great first season, and 3 years later get sold for crazy money. I think them, Dortmund, Bayern, and even no one's talking about Stuttgart, man. Finish second, solid season. Let's see how they do. I think the Bundesliga this year will probably be a lot more interesting in terms of will Kane finally get one? I was chatting to that friend of ours and I was like, oh, Kane, if he doesn't win it this year, like he's going to come back from Bayern without winning a league title. I'm under the consensus he's only going to have 2, maybe 3 years at Bayern because he's got that Premier League golden top goal scorer in Premier League history in the back of his mind. And if he ends up, I don't see him going to Bayern from Spurs and then coming back and signing for a City or United. If that makes sense. I think he'll end up going back to Spurs as like a club legend. And then, but if you're 34, 35, are you going to get the 60 odd goals in enough time at a Spurs as opposed to a Man City or, maybe a United? So I personally think it's very interesting that the Bundesliga is going to be super open. Kane has to go for it this year, or maybe, yeah, I reckon this year. I think if he wins it this year and probably gets far in the Champions League, wins the Champions League, he's won his trophies. He's got his 2 in the bag. Let me go back up to Spurs, back to the Premier League, bang another 60 goals. That's it. His career is pretty much cemented at that point. But if he comes back trophyless again, real question marks now. Was the move to Bayern worth it? He could have had the top goal scorer in the Premier League by the end of next season if he had stayed at Spurs, probably, especially under Ange Postecoglou with the type of football they play. So it'll be very interesting. I think the Bundesliga, I think Leverkusen are favourites, but I think Stuttgart. I don't know. I've got a funny feeling Stuttgart. I think Dortmund finish fourth or fifth again if everything stays the same. Bayern probably finish second, but Stuttgart might be a bit of like a Liverpool this year, dark horse up there till about Jan, Feb, March, and then might slip out. But I think Leverkusen. I hope Leverkusen keep it going.
So
But the
Kane is
company are
interesting
buying.
because I actually kind of have a different theory on Kane, and I think it's this theory that you will like. I
Yeah,
think
sure.
Kane wins it this summer, and I think it's
Oh,
far
the
more
Euros.
meaningful than winning with Bayern Munich. You know, because people are going to make the jokes, you know, and deservedly so. I would make the jokes. I make the jokes about Mbappe. Um, but if he wins it with the three lions, you can't really make jokes about that because England, talent wise, is probably second, third in Europe. You know, France
Yep.
is obviously number one, right? Um, so I think he wins it, and then I think that what happens is he comes back to Bayern. I think that company is an entire shit show, and I think he gets sold back to England to 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 win to get most goals ever. And I don't think he actually goes to Tottenham. I think he might go to Arsenal.
Oh no, no way. There's no. I mean, that would be hilarious. I'm not gonna. That would be a madness if he ended up at like the number one Judas in Premier League history is still. I don't care what anyone says about Ashley Cole, this and that. Sol Campbell going from Spurs to Arsenal on a free. They didn't even get a transfer fee for him. And if you look at historically, the shit he was saying for that whole year, I'll never do that. I'm here, this and that. And then ends up going back on everything he says, signs for the enemy, and then goes on to become like an invincible Premier League
Yeah.
winner and all this and that. This would be on par as that. It'd be close to like, it'd be high, it'd be worse than Ashley Cole for sure. But yeah, this would be a number one, worse than Tevez. This would be the set top two travesties, traitors, and it'd both be Spurs to Arsenal. Not directly for Kane, but if he comes back, fires Arsenal to a Premier League title, like holy shit, like that would be insane. No chance. He never goes to Arsenal. There's no way.
I don't
He
know, man.
couldn't.
So
Couldn't step foot in the country. He couldn't be. He'd have to leave London if he tried to pull a move like that. Like the fans are nuts. They'd kill him.
here's the thing: just picture Arsenal with a Kane who just won a Euros.
Euros.
Doesn't that just make sense though? Doesn't that just line up just make
It can't.
sense?
I don't know what the American equivalent is, but it just can't. Like when Rooney tried to move to City in 2010, they burned effigies outside his house. And this is when City was just on the way up, really. They weren't even Spurs and Arsenal. No,
Yeah.
no chance. It can't. It can't happen. He's gonna need 24-hour security. Like he can't walk around. Like, not I'm condoning this. This is just facts. Like fans they'd lose their minds.
Because here's the thing: who else does he go to? Because I don't think he goes back to Spurs, does he?
I think he ends up back at Spurs. I think he has like maybe a sweetheart deal where he does 2-3 years at Bayern, and part of that deal was like, yeah, we're gonna sell him back to Spurs, not for crazy money, just make a little bit pretty penny, whatever, like maybe 30, 40 million euros, something reasonably affordable. Gareth Bale did the same thing. He was at Real Madrid, and when things were going a little bit sideways, he came back to Spurs for a year for a loan. They might
Okay,
even loan
so
him back to
so
Spurs.
you think they'll loan him back even? I can
Even
see
if they loan him back, even if they loan him back, if things aren't, if company really struggles at Bayern and things aren't going well, I don't think they'll do it in January. But if this second season goes, not that this season was terrible, but if it goes around the same trajectory or worse, I don't see Kane staying there for a third. I could be wrong, but I just
yeah.
think Kane would be like 32, 33 now. Then we go back to the Premier League, especially if he wins the Euros, for God's sake. If he wins the Euros, then he's got that trophy. He's got the potentially the biggest trophy for his country,
Yeah.
uh, especially as a captain. I
I
think, yeah, if he wins the Euros, tits up at Bayern this year, I think he goes back to Spurs. Even if he doesn't win the Euros, maybe a third year at Bayern at best. But then he's gonna have one. He's always gonna have one eye on that Premier League record. He's so close.
So this is a conversation for another day, but I think it's a good cliffhanger to leave the one person who listened all the way here for the past hour and a half.
Already, Jesus.
um, I think Euros is more impressive than World Cup. I'll go on and say it.
I think historically maybe not, but I think, like I said, in 2016 when I watched the Euros in SF with you guys, even though England were abysmal, I fell in love with the Euros. I didn't really care for it too much before, but I really fell in love with the Euros in 2016. 2020, 2021, we came so close. it's still the World Cup. It's just that we're so. It's like United Champions League. Like, would I? I still the Premier League is the hardest trophy to win. Still the big Champions League is the biggest, but hardest to win is Premier League
Yeah,
because United is so far away from the Champions League. Like, it's not even on my radar. Like, I can't. I used as shit as we were back in the day. I can still picture like one day us lifting the Champions League. Whoever the captain was at the time, I thought in a couple years. We're so far away. I can't imagine Bruno lifting the Champions League. If he wins the league, I'll be over the moon. Like, that's how
yeah.
dire it is. I
I
think
mean,
though
I guess the
one
fact
of the
that Brazil and Argentina aren't in it obviously like diminishes the Euros
helps.
for obvious reasons. But like the big problem with the World Cup is that half the teams are shit. And the nice things about the Euros is that every team is great. Like, and,
Yeah,
and,
I understand. Yeah,
and, like people do this whole game with the World Cup where they're like, oh, Italy didn't make it. So like it's so hard to get in. It's like it's hard to get in if you're Europe. It's very easy to get in if you're literally any other geography. Um, but yeah,
Also,
I, we'll
last question.
yeah.
Last question. Ballon d'Or. Who wins the Ballon d'Or? Bellingham if he wins the England Euros, or Vinny if he wins the Copa America with Brazil?
I was talking to my friends about this, and my feeling about it is this: is that I think Vinny needs to either win the Copa or lose to Argentina because losing to Argentina is defensible. I think for him, especially with Brazil, right? I can see the argument that Bellingham would win it if England win the Euros, but Vinny can't play in the Euros. So
Yeah, that's it.
you can't punish the guy for not being in the competition. Like,
That's the big thing. Yeah.
but like one of my friends responded, he was just like, "Yeah, completely agree, but that's just not how the voters see it." And I'm like, "That's fair. That's a fair point." Like, you know,
I think I think Vinny's on ahead now because he scored in the final. Funnily enough, Bellingham set him up, but Vinny's ahead right now comfortably, I'd say. Especially being at Real Madrid. But if Bellingham wins the Euros, I mean, we've seen robberies. Haaland got robbed last year after the treble winning season, so let's see. But I
yeah,
don't think it'd be a rob. I think Bellingham winning the Euros is the only thing that stops Vinny from winning it. Otherwise, it should be Vinny.
I
I
do
think it
think
should
it's
be.
Vinny's team, like definitively Vinny's team. So I think he should be winning the Ballon d'Or. But yeah, I'll stop the recording right now.